Gang, what is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of The Game Plan, the fantasy show that is for each and every one of you fantasy football managers out there, whether it's your first time or you're playing in a million leagues, getting yelled at by your friends and family. Get off your phone. Sorry, I got to check my 20th league. I got some waivers to pick up. Doesn't matter. This show is for you. We give you the edge that you need to get some fantasy dubs. Each week, we're breaking down matchups. We're uncovering hidden strategies. We're giving out winning moves to help you make the decisions that's going to help you dominate all the jabronis in your league. I'm the authentic one, Matty Kiwoom, your go-to fantasy football analyst. And of course, I'm joined by the analytics mastermind, the wizard behind the statistics at PlayerProfiler, my man, Evan Ringler. Evan, what's up, dog?
What's up, Matty? So excited to be here. We have a ton to talk about today. We learned a lot in week one, and I can't wait to get into it.
Yes, you talked about it. So this show is about week one. We're not really going to help you too much with the exact moves for week two. We're really going to help you for the season using things that we know or what things that we learned, I would say, from week one. We got some stats that's going to blow your mind. And we're going to go dive into some of our reactions and how to play off it, because you know how it is. After week one, you get the overreaction theater in full force. So we're going to help you navigate those waters. So you're going to stick around for this episode of The Game Plan, baby. So before we get into the particular stats, my friend, I want to give you the floor because the website's been a little revamped. We're seeing some new statistics. We're seeing some new analytics. Player Profile was already the best place for your analytical profiles, but it's gotten even better. So since you're the guy behind it, the guy making it all happen, I want to give you the floor. Tell the people listening what's up, what's new, and why they should make sure that they're always logging in to playerprofiler.com.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that help with this. It's not just me. But we've revamped the player pages, got a bunch of new cool stats, such as first read targets, design targets, a bunch of new man versus zone stats, and completely refreshed expected models, which I'll be referencing a lot today, because those are incredibly useful for predictiveness in the future. Go check those out. Of course, we always got the weekly and seasonal and dynasty rankings up, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So go check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And we're always looking for predictive analytics in terms of football, and player profiles absolutely at the cutting edge of that. So without further ado, we got a whole bunch of stats from week one. Analytics. We're just very excited about the new stuff that's out there. So Evan, what's your first stat from last week that everyone has to know about?
I'm starting with Breece Hall, running back on the Jets. In week one, he was the running back 7 in expected fantasy points, and he was 7th in weighted opportunities as well. So the volume is going to be there for Breece. It's a very run-heavy offense, and he led the backfield by quite a bit in week one. He also had some efficiency too. 3 breakaway runs, only Derrick Henry had more. The Jets were 3rd in yards before contact per carry, so that O-line really stepped up in week one. And I thought, just looking at him, he looked much more explosive than he has over the last 2 seasons. And this is the best environment that he's ever played in. So, in my opinion, he's a strong running back too the rest of the way, even though I was not on board with drafting him in the 4th, 5th round in draft season.
Breece Hall was a nice surprise in week one. Now, when you're looking at the analytical profile, you're looking at some of the efficiency metrics. Are you using some of the, what are they telling you? Is he a guy that we can trust back? Is he back into the circle of trust in fantasy football?
I think he absolutely is. Like I mentioned, the O-line has really stepped up so far this year. 4th in run blocking rating as well. And I just expected this offense to be the most run heavy in the NFL, as it was in week one. That plus his explosiveness that seems to be back, that's just money making right there.
Yeah, I mean, it only took 1 week to remind us who he was. He is now my running back 10 heading into week number 2. Ruckus is in the chat. What up, Ruckus? Let's go. It's ETN and Coleman season. Well, if week 1 was any indicator, it sure the heck is. And at the end of the day, I mean, the discount on ETN and drafts is going to go down as one of the biggest discounts in fantasy football. history. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the Player Profiler channel. Leave a comment, smash the like button, all that good stuff. Help you boys out. My first stat of the week, and of course, I can't get away from this guy. If you know anything about me, you know I've been a fan of his going all the way back to Bowling Green, which is only 1 year ago. But I got to talk about Harold Fannin. And the stat that sticks out to me the most is the 5 first read targets. That was 5th most amongst tight ends in week 1. And why that is important to me is when we're trying to decide whether he's for real, whether we're trying to decide, is he already a top 12 tight end in Dynasty? All of these questions are already coming, from the week 1 performance. And seeing the 5 first read targets tells me that it's not just a happenstance that he saw the targets that he did in week 1. Kevin Stefanski, Joe Flacco, they came out of the huddle knowing that the ball was going to go to Harold Fannin Jr. if he was open, and it happened 5 times. I know Joe Flacco threw the ball 45 times, but 5 of those throws went to the first read, and that first read was Harold Fannin Jr. So if you're trying to decipher whether Harold Fannin is for real or not, I'm looking at that stat and I'm saying if that's repeatable, if I see another 4, 5, 6 first read targets in week 2, then you could fire it up each and every week, because if they're looking to him, even if it's only 10, 15, pushing 20% of the time, and if it gets to that number, I mean, we're celebrating, but even right now, we're looking at around 10-ish%. I think that's a good look for a rookie that didn't have a ton of fanfare coming out of our fantasy drafts. A guy that was taken in the 3rd round, which is good enough draft capital, especially for tight ends used all over the field. So for me, Harold Fannin Jr., big winner in week 1, and that stat really, really sticks out to me. Anything on Harold Fannin before you get to your next stat that you want to talk about there, my friend?
Yeah, I love it, man. To me, it seems like they want to build this offense around Harold Fannin, which is crazy. I never thought I'd be saying that after week 1, but here we are. Last week, he lined up at quarterback, running back, inline tight end, slot receiver, and wide receiver. They're using him all over the place, getting him touches however they can. It's clear to me that they just want to get the ball in this guy's hands as much as possible. And that's just going to grow from here because it's week 1 and he's a rookie.
P Money's in the chat. He said he's in a bit of a conundrum. So, Evan, let's see if you can help him out. He's got Njoku and he just picked up Fannin Jr. What the heck is he doing?
Well, I think you're in a pretty good spot. I have Njoku and Fannin ranked back-to-back in both weekly and seasonal rankings. Right now, I have Njoku 1 spot ahead, so I would still start Njoku. He's getting more snaps, more routes, but Fannin is coming, and I think he might be one of the best waiver pickups of the season potentially.
Rarely in today's game, with all the information out there, our ability to understand rookies before they hit the field, Fab and those week 1 waivers have kind of lost a little of their luster. I remember, I've been playing fantasy a long time, and back in the day, the first week always had a ton of value, and it's gotten lesser and less over the years. Fannin Jr. is a Fab breaker. He's a difference maker, and P Money. Let's cross your fingers here. All of a sudden, David Njoku gets traded to, I don't know, Miami. Now you got 2 tight ends.
That's a great point. He's in the last year of his contract.
Yes, he is.
He could easily get traded.
So, P Money, if you're talking about Dynasty, then you are sitting pretty. If you're not, I think you're still sitting in a good spot, because in a landscape that's so bad in terms of the tight end production, if you could sit there and say, I think I got 2 good ones, you're ahead up on probably every single one in your league, other than the Bowers, McBride guys, and now Tyler Warren. So let's keep this train moving. What's the next stat that you got to tell all of our fine listeners here tonight?
Now I'm going to one of my favorite players, Jaxon Smith-Njigba from my Seahawks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really hard to just pick one stat with this guy because he just had an incredible week 1 by the advanced metrics. So I'm just going to tell you every stat that he was first in among receivers.
I love it.
He was first in target share, target rate, air yard share, deep target share, and first read target share, which is absolutely wild. He put up a decent amount of fantasy points, which is despite the Seahawks offense really looking not good at all. They were one of the worst offenses of week 1, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba still got there. So I think we can trust him as a wide receiver 1 rest of season.
How far are we, or how many times do we have to see this type of production until he is pushing that elite, fantasy football asset? I don't want to put him in the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, Puka Nacua area, but how many more times does he have to do this before he's in the Drake London, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, Amon Ross St. Brown type territory?
I think what we need to see is this offense just continue to get better as the season goes along, because this is unsustainable. He's not going to have a 60% target share throughout the whole year.
Right.
I mean, I would love it. That would be cool, but it's not going to happen. But also the Seahawks can't be 29th in total yards. They're going to need to throw the ball a lot better, especially. So we're just kind of waiting to see that before he can get up into that next tier. Although I have moved him up significantly, like I said, wide receiver 1 rest of season.
I love it. I love to hear it. I love to hear it, baby. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it talking. I am going to stick in the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to stick with the Seahawks because there's a stat that stuck out to me. It's a number of stats, but I'm really going to hone in on one. But it surrounds one of my favorite players of the past few years, Kenneth Walker. And the stat that I'm going to bring up is the 2.31 yards created per touch. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is this is a telltale sign that maybe he lost a step due to all the injuries over the years. And don't take my word for it. Look at the analytics. Look at the stats. I mean, I picked yards created per touch because I think that's a good indicator of a running back's ability to create without, despite what the blocking scheme looked like, despite what's being blocked in front of him, he generated this after, making a move off the first tackle. But even so, you look throughout the rest of the analytical profile, and I know it's one game, but the yards per touch was caca. True yards per carry was caca. It just doesn't look good. And now we're looking at last week's box score, and we're seeing Zach Charbonnet 12 carries. So Kenneth Walker's 10. And I know Kenneth Walker got targets, 3 of them. Well, he caught all 3. That's good, but he turned it into 4 yards. So he was not all that productive on a per touch basis, whether by land or by air, Evan. And now that we're kind of just looking at the landscape, I'm starting to really get this feeling that in a couple weeks, this is the Zach Charbonnet show, and Kenneth Walker is maybe a between the tackles grinder. The explosive just doesn't seem to be there. So I looked at that set and I got so worried about Kenneth Walker and what it'll be like going forward. And does he just lose this job outright? Because as we've seen this team, and I think we talked about it last week, I mean, they kept, 4 tight ends and 2 fullbacks. Like, they want to play, run, a pound it style of football. And it seems like at this point in their careers, Zach Charbonnet is that better downhill runner that fits the scheme a hell of a lot more. And I think that as the game trickle on and as we see more and more touches roll in and we get more data, it's just going to look more and more like Zach Charbonnet's backfield. So for me, I am ringing the alarm bells for Kenneth Walker. I'm very nervous about his week-to-week production. How do you kind of, after looking at the first week of stats, popping the hood at the analytical profile, looking at the usage profiles of both of these guys, how do you see it playing out?
For me, I'm not going to get too worried about the efficiency side of things until we get a little bit more of a sample size. I still think that he's going to come back and be explosive. At least I really hope so, because that's all we've seen him do throughout his career. Mm-hmm. But I am very worried about the usage. Charbonnet out usaged Walker in basically every way he could have. Snap share, carry share, routes. He had the short yardage. He had the 2-minute drill. So it's really a long way for Walker to go before he can be a useful fantasy asset again, especially, like we mentioned, in an offense that is just not very good right now. So he's got to probably get that passing down work back and get a higher carry share, at least in like base looks. I don't think he's going to have the goal line role. But yeah, I'm not super worried about the efficiency. Hopefully the O-line gels as the season goes along. I think that's a possibility. But the usage really puts a limit on his ceiling if he's just going to be in a 50-50 split in a mediocre to bad offense.
You started to talk me off a ledge, the ledge there, my friend, but then at the end, I find myself still very much on it. We got one more stat that we're going to bring up, one more player that we want to talk about, and the stats surrounding that player. Go ahead, take it away.
I got Justin Herbert here. So in week 1, the Chargers ranked first in pass rate over expected by a wide margin. They were 15% higher than expected. And we kind of saw this towards the end of last season as well when they became much more pass heavy. So if they're going to be throwing that much, Justin Herbert has arguably the best weapons of his career. I thought QJ actually looked quite good. Keenan Allen looked quite good as well. And we know what Ladd has. So Justin Herbert's going to be throwing the ball a ton to his best receivers he's ever had. That's just a recipe for success in fantasy. We know how talented Justin Herbert is. And he was slinging that thing in week 1. 4th in depth of target, which was over 10 yards. That is very, very high. And he's also running the ball a lot. 7 carries, 28% of the team's carries. That could be big. That could be really big. So I've moved him up to being a top 8 quarterback rest of season, and that could go up to quarterback 5.
I got him at quarterback 6 this week. I'm loving the matchup against Vegas indoors on Monday Night Football. You know, it's funny though, Evan, and it's like we've done one show together. This is our second. We're going to do many, many more. We're already getting this the co-host simpatico, because when you emailed me that you had Herbert on your list, I was in the middle of doing a little bit of Herbert research because I too was going to talk about Herbert. And just like the perfect, mesh that we're becoming, you didn't talk about the stat that I was going to bring up. So I'm gonna piggyback on what you're saying, that he had the second highest catchable rate off of play action. Very effective off of play action. So much so he had a 90.9% completion percentage off of play action. And why that's relevant to me is there's a lot of Omari and Hampton owners out there very nervous. You saw last week how important and how effective he is off play action. And if he's going to be effective off play action, they're going to have to run the football. They're going to have to stick to some of the basics, some of the bylaws that Harbaugh always operates under. So I think that's a good sign for not only Herbert's success going forward, because if he's going to be that efficient and that dangerous off of play action, they're going to make sure that they run the ball. And Greg Roman, of course, that's part of his bag. That's what he does as offensive coordinator. So for me, I loved seeing that. That was a stat that absolutely popped up. So we're both in on Herbert. Like I said, you got him in the top 8, got him at 6 this week. We're very, very excited for everything that's going to be going with Herbert. And it's about time. It's about time to see a guy with a laser rocket arm show it off. We do have some things in the chat, Brewer. I just want to go through the chat before we get to our next segment. First, Jamie's in the house. Matty and Evan, what's going on? Dynasty Contracts, what's up, boys? Look at these fellas. What's going on? I do have a super chat that you jump all the way to the top. First and foremost, Cameron. Shout out to you for the super chat. So interesting. Seems like fantasy community was so quiet about him this year. Why is that? Why do you think they were so quiet about Herbo this year?
I think people just kind of got tired about him just not producing very much in fantasy. They thought it was going to be a run-heavy offense, and it looks like it's going to be the exact opposite. So that's just a huge change. And like I mentioned, him running the ball a lot more was completely unexpected on my end, but much welcomed. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got to love the rushing. I mean, this week it wasn't a ton of yardage, but any 2, 3, 4, 5 points that you can get, on top of what he can provide in the passing game, you're absolutely going to take it. I think we got a little Herbo fatigue. That's what I think there, Cameron, is just we know the potential. We've seen it. We saw it in his rookie year, but then we saw a bit of a steady decline in terms of fantasy production on a consistent basis, always being last year's QB 14. I just think that over some time, people got very, very nervous about rostering him and starting him every single week. But, it's times like this where we get very excited to see a true resurgence or a breakout, whatever you want to call it. But we're happy to see it for Mr. Justin Herbert. All right, we got some more questions in chat. We will absolutely answer them here. But before we get into your questions and our next segment, let's hear about FitBod.
Earlier this year, I tore my rotator cuff, I had surgery, it was a mess. They said, it's going to be a year of rehab. And I said, okay. I found an app, FitBod. which lets me plan my workouts, keep the strength of my lower body, but work on strength and conditioning and flexibility of my shoulder. And man, I so wish I had found it earlier. It plans your workouts every day, how many reps, what time of day, even gives you indicators of where your recovery of your muscles is at throughout the week. It has been an invaluable tool. It's something I credit with my recovery. Working out had always been a mystery to me before. Now with Fitbod, that mystery has been solved. Go to fitbod.me. Fitbod.me and use code PLAYER. Use code PLAYER to get 25% off. That is fitbod.me. FITBOD.me/player to get your body to where you want it to be.
Yeah, make sure you check out Fitbod. Get your body where you want to be. And listen, disclaimer, everybody, you do not need to get in a horrible biking accident to use the app. You can absolutely use it right from the rip, and it's going to help you out, get yourself healthy, get you where you want to be. P Money dropped downs. Ooh, for Boutte. What are your thoughts on that, Evan? That's a big, big move.
You know what? I would start Boutte over Downs, but I would rather have Downs rest of the season. Is that fair? Man, it really hurts dropping somebody that's that talented as Josh Downs.
You got to stick around, P Money, because I got some thoughts on Mr. Kayshon Boutte that I'm going to get to here in our next segment. Got to start 2 out of these 5: Ridley, Deebo, Olave, Pittman, and Hollywood. Let them know what you're thinking there, Evan.
Start 2. Okay. Deebo must start, in my opinion. That usage he got was incredible in week 1. The other one, I got to look at matchups and stuff here. What do you think, Matty?
Deebo, I'm locked in. I got him at number 15 this week, so I'm absolutely firing up Deebo Samuel all week long. Then for me, it comes down to Olave or Pittman. I know Olave, it wasn't pretty, but he did see a bunch of targets. The target share was hefty. I do have Pittman 2 spots below because if he does get the Pat Surtain treatment, much like we saw Ridley get last week, that could take him out of commission. But I do like Pittman rest of the season. That was a very encouraging week number 1. But for looking at these players here, breaking it down, I'm going to go with Deebo. I'm going to go with Olave.
All right. I'm going to go with Ridley as my second guy. I don't love the matchup of the Saints for Olave versus the 49ers. I just saw what they did to my Seahawks offense. That defense still has juice, so I'm going to stay away. Ridley,
nasty defense.
Ridley just crushes it in terms of targets and air yards all the time. So just hope he catches some more balls this week because that kind of was a problem last week.
The thing about Ridley, are you concerned though? I mean, the Rams held Nico Collins in check last week.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. It's really pick your poison here, I guess.
Yeah, we are kind of picking between some uncertainty all which way, and it's just really kind of pick your poison. Jeff's in the building. Shout out, Jeff. Thank you for checking us out. Need 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. So we're picking 2 in a full point PPR league: Tyreek Hill, Tony Pollard, Ricky Pearsall, and scary Terry McLaurin.
Okay, so 1 wide receiver and then 1 other guy.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I think is easily Ricky Pearsall. Would you agree with that?
Ricky. Yeah, I got him top 12 this week.
Awesome. Yeah, I have him at 14, so not far behind. And then Pollard, RB14 for me. Easy.
Let me double check my Pollard. I got him as a running back 2. I'm going to go with Scary Terry if you're okay with the risk on a Thursday night game, because I just think he could really kind of break it out with one type of play. But the matchup is tough. And I do agree with Evan. I have, like I said, I got Pollard as a running back 2 this week. So if you're a little bit if you don't want to go a little risky, I completely understand. So that's okay with me. I got Keon and Judy. Was Keon's game a fluke or is this his year?
I like Keon more than Judy at this point. It's just a better offense. He's got more upside, more unseen upside. And, I think it was kind of a fluke, but the expected fantasy points were there. He was over 20, which is very, very good. So you got to be excited, even if you expected to come down to earth.
Yeah. And a player like this, we always knew was going to take development. We always knew it was going to be a bit of a project. But as the game turned up, the heat turned up in that game, it felt like his usage got turned up. And I think that is what we need for a player like that. And I think he's a great compliment to Shakir, so I don't think they really have to cannibalize each other's production. I think one can win on volume, one can win on efficiency, and if Keon gets both, then holy shit, he is absolutely going to break out. It will be a big year for Keon Coleman. So I don't think it's a fluke per se. I do think we could see a little bit of maybe a little worse off game. How would you say that? I don't know. A little game, a little fall off this week because I don't know if the matchup is great with Sauce Gardner really kind of opposing him. So I have him kind of ranked low this week. But in terms of the totality of the season, I think we could fire up and be very excited for Keon Coleman. Contracts got to go pod. Go do your pod, man. We love you too. Go do your pod. Follow up with our guy, awesome SP man. I also got Tony Pollard and TreVeyon Henderson. Which is the must start? Who are you riding the bench with? Who are you picking? TreVeyon or Pollard?
I'm going with Pollard just for the volume. Really, I don't think either one is going to be very efficient. I guess maybe Henderson does have a great matchup, but he just didn't get the volume we were looking for in week one, while Pollard is completely taking over that entire backfield. So just give me that floor.
Yeah, I got Pollard at 22, Henderson this week at 28. I need to see this team. I need to see the Patriots be better, more creative on offense. Evan, we talked about stats of the week. Here's another one for you. Do you know that the 100% of the designed runs for the New England Patriots went to the left side of the field?
What the hell?
Yeah, I understand they were running away from Max Crosby. I get it. But 100%, I mean, it's pretty easy to diagnose a play when you know exactly what direction it's freaking going in. So come on, the guys. Let's get it going. And I hope this week is a big week for my man, TreVeyon Henderson. Just got engaged, too. A little love in the air, a little love bump. You got to get the love bump.
There we go.
Trone 4, someone sent me a trade offering Derrick Henry and Davante Adams for CMC and DK. I was going to counter with CMC and Kupp. Would we do this trade? It is a PPR league.
Okay, so he's getting Henry and Adams, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
I like that side, honestly. You know, CMC I have him projected for more points than any quarterback this week. So it's a little out of control. I think he's just going to go absolutely crazy until he gets hurt. But Derrick Henry's, he's a top 5 running back easily rest of the season. And I prefer Davante Adams over DK significantly. And if you could do Kupp, that would be even better.
Yeah, Kupp's a no-brainer. I'm still doing the CMC and DK because I have Davante pretty handily over DK. And CMC is a cheat code. He's the best. If you could guarantee me a healthy season for CMC, there's literally nothing in fantasy I'd rather have on my roster than Christian McCaffrey. It's just, I don't believe and we didn't get to talk about it last week because it all happened after we recorded, but the limited practice on Thursday, the missed practice on Friday, that wasn't nothing. And then just the fact that it was something. And then he got 31 touches. That just, he feels like you remember that game? I can't remember when you're just running away from the ball. It was a game on your phone. I can't remember what it's called, Maze Runner or something. Temple Run. It reminded me of Temple. CMC is fantasy football Temple Run. We are just going to dodge the trees, jump over the cracks until we lose. And we're going to love it. Until then, but yeah,
eventually you're going to lose.
And eventually you're going to lose. No matter how far it goes into the season, it's going to end up happening. So, Tron, I would make that trade. I think Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry he was put on this earth to run the football. That's just what the man was for. He's just built different. So I'm going to go with a little Derrick Henry there. Follow up here from our guy, Trone Force. Need 2 wide receivers and a flex. Tyreek, McLaurin, DK, Hunter, Kupp, Jaylen Warren, Bill, Krosky, Merritt, and Austin Ekeler. So we got 2 guys on Thursday Night Football. How should he break it down?
This is a tough one. A lot of players here. Give me Terry as the first receiver, and then the second receiver, I'll do Travis Hunter. I like, he got a great matchup this week against the Bengals, and I liked his usage in week 1. So I'll go with those 2. And then for the flex, PPR, let's see, DK, JCM, between those 2 probably. I'll go with DK. Revenge game for DK.
I'm going to go with DK as well. It's very, very close, but I'm with you. I kind of agree wholeheartedly here. I'm definitely going Scary Terry on Thursday night, and I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. Both of them are top 24 plays for me this week. And then I do have Ekeler and JCM, pretty enticing plays, but DK is just a little bit higher. Revenge game. And the volume was there. We saw the volume. It wasn't efficient. He didn't convert on the volume, but he was efficient in what he caught. So how would you explain that? I don't know. He got the volume, didn't convert on the volume, still converted on the yard. So if he does convert in the volume, he's a monster. So I'm okay with DK Metcalf this week. All right, let's move on to the second segment. Keep leaving them in the chat. That's why we're here. We're here to help you game plan for your weekly matchup for your year, everything in fantasy football. We're here to help every single one of the fantasy managers out there. So if you're here, first of all, thank you. Shout out to you. We do this for you, the fantasy manager. But if you can do something for us, make sure you're subscribed to the Player Profiler YouTube channel. Smash that like button and leave a comment. What is the stat that jumped out the most to you in week number 1? And leave those questions. We'll get to it. But let's get started with the second segment of the day, week 1 reaction. So basically what we're doing here, folks, is we are taking something from week 1 and we are going to kind of game plan how we would react to that player, whether it be buying, selling, high, low, whatever it is. Now, week 1 is a unique time where you can pounce on your league mate's vulnerabilities and the overreaction theater that comes from the first set of games. So what is the first player you'd like to talk about in your week 1 reaction?
I'm going to start out by being a big wet blanket, and I'm going to say sell Zay Flowers, who was the wide receiver 1 among all fantasy football this week.
You jerk. You jerk.
Let me get this straight. This is nothing related to his talent. I absolutely love him as a player. I think he's awesome. However, he only ran 20 routes, and this is what we should expect. The Ravens are extremely run heavy for good reason, by the way. So that's going to lead to him being incredibly volatile week to week in fantasy. There will be a lot of dud weeks to go with his boom weeks. So just don't expect him to be a locked-in starter for you each week. I'd be looking to sell him. It's also a little stat for you. No receiver overperformed more relative to their expected fantasy points than Zay Flowers.
That hurts my soul. Now, if you were to sell high, what are you targeting here? Like, what range should people be looking to sell?
We're talking seasonal dynasty.
Let's go with seasonal. Let's go with a little redraft angle here.
Okay. Some guys I have ranked ahead of Flowers right now. Right ahead of him, Jacoby Myers, Chris Olave, Emeka Egbuka, Deebo Samuel, Tedroa McMillan. Some guys I like. See, running backs could get maybe a Travis Etienne, Tyrone Tracy, Jordan Mason.
Ooh. Now, the name that stuck out to me the most, and this is a redraft take because you ain't getting him in Dynasty, but Ted McMillan. I think Ted McMillan is bulletproof this year because that was a horrible game from Bryce Young, and he walked with 11 fantasy points. And when your wide receiver 2 or 3 in redraft can have that type of floor, like that's what we're talking about. That's the stuff that makes us some moolah throughout the fantasy season. So I'm totally there in terms of the redraft, trying to get Ted McMillan with the inflated Zay Flowers value. For me, the reaction or the week 1 reaction that I'm kind of pouncing on right now is I'm looking to buy AJ Brown. I think the narrative right now around the Eagles is that Jalen Hurts doesn't have the passing volume to make him relevant or something, but I don't buy into that because he was there last year and the same type of offense was kind of played out last year. And even last year, we did see some down games. I mean, in week 9 last year, he had 5.6 fantasy points. Week 14, 8.3. Had some down games in the playoffs, which we don't get fantasy points for. But my point being is AJ Brown has some down games. And that was the worst game he's going to have all year. 1 catch, 8 yards. They just didn't need it. It was just a run-heavy game, 3 rushing touchdowns for the Eagles. Super inefficient targets to Dallas Goedert. What do you have? 7 catches for 40 yards. I mean, not effective in the pass game. What I think we saw in week 1 was a divisional game on opening night. We saw a team in the Dallas Cowboys that was more game, I think, than we expected with the new head coach. And at the end of the day, we have to remember, Kellen Moore is not their offensive coordinator any longer. He's in New Orleans. They have a new OC. They got a new game plan. They got a new way of going about their offense. It's going to take a week or 2 to marinate. And if someone who drafted A.J. Brown in the 2nd, maybe 3rd round or whatever it was, if they're looking to get off that island and they think they're, I'm okay with 75 cents on the dollar, they're wiping their hands of it, take it. I'm buying AJ Brown all day long. Buy me some AJB. He is the thumbnail guy, for God's sakes.
I love it, man. Absolutely. He has these games from time to time. That's just the nature of the Eagles offense. But also the nature of that offense is him having some giant explosive games because he is awesome. On a per route basis, he was one of the best receivers in the league last year, like top 5 easily. So I'm just going to bet on that talent. And we know that AJ Brown he'll demand more targets coming up.
And all you know is if you see him reading a self-help book on the sideline, you're already too late. You ain't going to be able to trade for him. So make sure you get AJ Brown before the self-help book comes out.
Great plan.
So who you got? What's the next player you're reacting to, or should I say, are you pouncing on the reaction happening?
I'm going to cheat again. Second time I've completely cheated the topic in this episode. I'm going to say buy the Cowboys passing game. No quarterback underperformed their expected fantasy points more than Dak in week 1. No wide receiver underperformed more than CeeDee Lamb, who still had a very strong showing. This is going to be a very, very pass-heavy offense. There's going to be a ton of air yards available for the taking. Dak was 6 in air yards this week. And this logic, we could also apply it to the Cincinnati Bengals as well. These are 2 offenses that I was all in on coming into the year. They underperform in week 1, so I'm buying all the way back in week 2.
You're buying the passing game, as am I. So I'm actually going to stick on the same team. I'm selling the running game. I'm selling Javonte high. Javonte came out from the opening night. People were very excited. 54 rushing yards, 2 receptions, 10 yards. So 64 total yards from scrimmage, 2 tutties, 20.4 fantasy points. He was running back 5 last week. I'm selling that for this reason. The touchdowns, I hate banking on touchdowns. I know there's a LeGarrette Blount season in everyone, apparently, but that's not kind of what I like to chase. And I think this is a perfect time to sell because the fantasy card, when you click on the player on Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, whoever you play, it's going to say running back 5. And that's going to have some cachet. That's a guy you can move. And when you look at the yards per carry at 3.6, it's kind of in line with his last 3 years as a pro. 3.6 in 2023, 3.7 in 2024. So I don't necessarily think that this was just a bad game or a tough matchup. I think he just scored twice. When you look at the efficiency metrics, again, it's going to take some time for these numbers to saturate and to really become as viable and as trustworthy as they will be. But all we have are the week 1 stats, and I see a poor juke rate, a poor number of yards per touch, poor true yards per carry, a poor explosive rating. I don't see a whole lot here that I think is repeatable. I mean, his expected points added, 78th. I mean, there was not enough there from the player's perspective, from the analytical profile perspective, for me to say, this is the guy, this is a beast all year long. This is a top 12 running back. And I'm already starting to feel like the recoil of the inefficiency here, because I'm looking at my ranks for week 2, and I got him at running back 20. And he's got a fantastic matchup. Vegas is having them, the implied Vegas totals amongst one of the highest on the slate. And I still aren't giving him that much credit because I think he's going to need those touchdowns. And I think after a game where all the eyes were on just him, we were all watching that game last Thursday, it's important to take advantage of those overreactions. And that's why I'm selling Javonte Williams right now before it's too late.
Totally agree, man. I don't know if it's possible for Javonte Williams to score more than 10 or 12 fantasy points without a touchdown. He's completely reliant on it. And you're right. It's just the easiest way to make money in fantasy football is fade the touchdown dependent guys.
Always. And they only carried the 2 running backs. I know Jaylen Blue is the healthy scratch because they use Turbin as kind of that scat back kind of gadgety player. But Jaylen Blue is going to find his way on the field.
Yeah.
And I think Jaylen Blue is just going to cut into it even more so. In the days of which we're looking at, Javonte being a running back 1 in fantasy is just numbered. So if you can move him, I'm looking to trade him now. I think moving into a spot where maybe you kind of pounce on a player that necessarily didn't perform all that well, that I think will kind of go, up throughout the season. Jordan Mason is someone I would be targeting.
Absolutely.
It's tough to get JCM. It's tough to get Bill right now because the hype is just astronomical. But if you could, I'm buying in redraft, maybe getting an RJ Harvey. I'm all in on that.
Yep.
And in some circles, even in Dynasty, I don't think you're that far off to if the stars align to pouncing on a Quinshon Judkins, because the suspension is being rumored. It took him a while to sign. There's a lot of uncertainty, but I still believe in the talent of the player. And if you have to even wait 5 more games to get him, I think that talent is going to something you can cash in later on. So I think there's plenty of names in the running back realm that I'm looking to buy while I'm selling Javonte Williams. So sell Javonte. What else you got here? You got one more guy. Let's tell us who it is. What you got?
Buy Juwan Johnson. He hasn't really done a whole lot notable throughout his career, at least for fantasy purposes. But in week 1, these fantasy points were very much real. They were not a fluke. He was 4th in target share, 4th in air yard share, 2nd in first read target share, and 1st in expected fantasy points. So I'm just going to buy into this usage, even though it's a bad offense. I know. I'm just going to trust the analytics, trust the trust the efficiency as well. And he is getting paid over $10 million per year, which is kind of crazy. When I looked that up today, I was like, wow, that is wild. But it makes sense why they're using him like that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they did give him the extension. He is the de facto number 2 pass catcher in that offense. And you look around, you kind of scour that depth chart. Ain't nobody coming. There ain't nobody coming that's going to take over some targets. Who's coming there? What player is going to be walking through that door in the calendar year of 2025 that is going to push Juwan Johnson aside? I don't see it. There's no one in the depth chart that goes, that's the guy. And if Olave continues to get banged up, which he did in the first week he did go to the blue medical tent, Juwan Johnson is that guy that'll be around now and someone that we could see up. Tough matchup this week against against San Francisco. Has one of the lowest implied totals on the week. Where do you have him ranked this week? Are you going right back to Juwan Johnson?
Where do I have him ranked? I have him at tight end 16. It is a bad matchup.
I got him at tight end 17, so I'm with you. I think This is an opportunity, a tough matchup, but it's a guy that a lot of people are excited to add, and it's guys you should have on your roster.
Man, Alex in the chat just traded Juwan Johnson for Jordan Mason. That is an absolute smash. Oh my God.
Yeah, I even know
Juwan Johnson, I guess.
I like Juwan Johnson, I do, but Jordan Mason, I think, looked like such more. He looked like a far more effective rusher for the Vikings. And early on in that game, I felt that if they had pounded the Jordan Mason ball, gave him the ball more, they would have had more success in the first half. They went too pass heavy. They tried to be a little bit more open, and it wasn't working. But when they just kind of lined it up in a traditional sense and just ran it up with Jordan Mason, they actually were getting some yardage. I think if they would have started there, and I think they will continue to get it. Aaron Jones ain't going nowhere. He's still pretty flashy, good receiver, and obviously a big presence on that team. But Jordan Mason, he's, I like him. And if there is an injury to Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason is going to smash. So Alex, with your 2 points per carry league, good move.
Absolutely.
Went down this morning. A cold offer in the inbox. Oh,
ooh. Love those.
Angels do exist, You just got to thank your fantasy angels there. You got to love it. My last guy that I'm going to bring up is actually a buy. It's not a buy low, though, because sometimes you have to buy high. And the secret to buying high is to use the confidence of the person who rosters that player against them, because certain players are a buy high, and I'm using quotes here, because their ADP was so low. So I am buying high on Kayshon Boutte because I believe in most leagues. Now, I'm in New England. I live in Massachusetts. You can't get Kayshon Boutte in my leagues because Patriot fans, and you know how that goes, that bias. But in most leagues, Kayshon Boutte is being moved. And in dynasty leagues, you could probably get him for a third. You could probably move him for one of your bench running backs, someone that you might need 2 injuries to have any fantasy relevancy. And I think Kayshon Boutte is here, and I don't think he's going anywhere. I know a lot of people have chalking this up to a week 1 fluke. The 8 targets, 6 receptions, 103 yards, 16.3 fantasy points. He was wide receiver 17. But the chemistry with Drake May is undeniable. And it actually doesn't just start this year in week 1. Evan, the last 4 games in which Kayshon Boutte played, 20.5 fantasy points, which was, I want to make sure I'm going from the right direction here. Okay, yeah, 20.5 fantasy points, 7 targets, caught 5 of them, 95 yards, and a tutty. Down week, 6.8, but he still got 5 targets in that game, caught 4 of them, just wasn't efficient. 7 targets, 7 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown, 24.7 fantasy points. And then the last week that I just mentioned, 6 catches, 103 yards, 16.3 fantasy points. So this goes back all the way to last year. This chemistry has been building. And then we talk about the analytical profile over at PlayerProfiler.com. I'm looking at a couple of stats that are very encouraging. 2.58 yards per out run. Now that number is going to fluctuate, but it's a good number to start. Top 13 in the league. And that is a very strong indicator of future success. 12.9 yards per target. So he's being used downfield. He's not just a Wandale Robinson specialist catching a bunch of balls at the line of scrimmage. No, they're stretching him out. They're throwing him the ball. First downs per your out run is a quarter of the time. 15th in the league just 1 week in. And the expected fantasy points, 16.4, right around the 16.3. So he got what he got what he deserved. And I don't think this is going anywhere because just like we mentioned with the Saints, ain't nobody come through that door. I know there are better names. There are more exciting names in New England, but they ain't nobody come through that door to push him aside. If Stephon Diggs is there, he got his targets. He was good. He was solid, but he's older and he's just getting there. There's no chemistry. He's number 2. And Pop Douglas had one of the weirdest games ever. The targets were there. The yards were literally negative. Did score a touchdown, nice catch. But he's always just kind of been that over-the-middle guy. He's not really an attacker. He's not that true playmaker. And Kayshon Boutte, who was once upon a time a highly touted prospect in the college game, did remind the media here down in New England that he used to be regarded as a potential first-round draft pick, and he feels it again. So if the person in my league is not valuing Kayshon Boutte with any type of confidence, you can sell him to me, and you could feel like you're selling him high because I think he is a guy here to stay. My thoughts on him overall, I know people love hearing like this year's version of X player, this year's version of Y player. For me, he's this year's version of Juwan Jennings. Why was my brain shutting off right there? But Juwan Jennings. And not necessarily in how they play or where they are in their career or how it happened. But the reason why he's this year Juwan Jennings is because last year, early on in the season, he had that ridiculous game. And everyone was selling high. Well, he finished as a top 25 receiver in fantasy. And Kayshon Boutte, I strongly believe that we'll look back on the 2025 season and be, wow, Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver 28. Not bad. Which again is selling high. The person who rostered him got him for free or has been rostering on the back end of their bench. So they are getting something for nothing in their eyes. But I think he's a flex play. And I think it keeps going this week. I know he's kind of fallen in a lot of people's rankings. A lot of people aren't as confident in his production in week 1. I have him as a top 40 receiver, even in maybe a potential tougher matchup with all the injuries in Miami. I think Kayshon Boutte is an absolute flex play. I have him in the same range as Keenan Allen, Khalil Shakir. So I am absolutely playing him in my flex.
Love it, man. Yeah, you made a fantastic argument, I thought. And all those metrics that you mentioned that were so good, that was despite the Patriots offense looking pretty horrible.
It was pretty bad.
What if that offense gets better? Then his production is just going to get better.
It was a rainy day. It was a crappy day. They didn't run the ball worth a damn. So if any of those things improve this week, starting in Miami, we saw they looked against Indianapolis. Kayshon Boutte is absolutely going to reap the benefits of it. We have a few things in the chat, so we'll make sure we get to that before we sign off for the night. So Ruckus has a trade, Waddle and Dobbins for Breece. Which side? This is pretty easy for me, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Man, in redraft leagues, I assume it's pretty standard league. Trading up is usually the move. And give me Breece Hall. I think he's going to smash the rest of the season.
I agree. And I think by the end of the season, even if this is a dynasty outlook, Ruckus, is that Dobbins is going to be pretty much valueless by the end of the year in dynasty. So Waddle for Breece, I mean, we would have salivated over that 2 years ago, even when Waddle was a little bit more highly regarded. I see the 3 wide receivers here. So wide receivers may be coming at a slight premium, but we all know when the bullets are flying in a fantasy season, running backs are gold. So give me a guy who went out and broke out week 1 and it might be back to that explosive player that we know and love. P Money back in the chat. Bill or Tyrone Tracy this week.
Yeah, for me, this isn't all that close just because of volume. Give me Tyrone Tracy. Juicy matchup, too, versus Dallas.
I agree. I got him quite a bit higher in my week 2 rankings. 27 for Tracy, still at 35 for Bill. I got to see it one more week. I got to see how it works, especially in that tough matchup. Last one, Kyle says, should I trade Ollie Gordon, move up Pickens for AJ up to?
I'm reading this as Pickens plus Ollie for AJ Brown.
Should I trade Ollie Gordon up to move Pickens for AJ Brown? So yeah, Ollie Gordon and Pickens for Brown. Let's call it that. What side are you taking?
AJB, baby.
AJB. If you tuned into the game plan, then you got the reasons why we love AJB, and we are buying in on Mr. AJ Brown, baby. So that's it. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the game plan. So whether you're chasing your first fantasy win or grinding for that eventual championship run, we have got you covered all season long. Big thank you to all of you guys who tuned in, tapped in, hung out with me and Evan tonight. Make sure you are smashing that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the Player Profiler YouTube channel and leave a comment. What is the stat from week 1 that has absolutely caught your eye? And everybody, you can catch us each and every week breaking down the matchups, the sleepers, the data that's going to give you the edge. I'm the authentic one, Matty Kiwoom, along Evan Ringler. Evan, let the people know, where can they find you?
You can find me at Evan Ringler FF on X. I'm going to have a lot of stat posts coming later this week. And then you can see everything I do on playerprofiler.com. Just a big expected stats update, advanced stats as well. Go check it out on all the player pages for free.
Yeah, baby. Now you can find me on X at Matty Q. Just remember one thing. Together, me and Evan, we're going to keep you one step ahead of all the jabronis in your league. Championships are not won on Sundays. Everybody, they are won right here, right now, when you put the work in during the week. So now let's get out there and win those week 2 matchups. And Evan and I will see you next week. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.